According to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, anxiety is the most common mental illness in the United States, affecting 40 million adults 18 years or older, or 18.1% of the population each year. Anxiety disorders are highly treatable, yet the association reports that only 36.9% of those suffering seek treatment across the United States. Dr. Chloe Carmichael is a licensed clinical psychologist and the author of Nervous Energy: Harness the Power of Your Anxiety. The book focuses on practical techniques which benefit smart and driven people. In her practice in New York, Dr. Carmichael and her team service high-functioning business executives, professionals in the arts, and everyday people who want some help in navigating their personal and professional growth. Dr. Carmichael joined me this week to have a discussion on how we can all harness our nervous energy and be set up for success. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. The fulfillment of our purpose often gives us clarity and direction on how best we can make the most impact for the most people. So I began our conversation with Dr. Carmichael by asking her how she personally defines fulfillment, gratitude, and happiness.
Oh, that's a big and wonderful question to start with. So, how I personally define happiness, fulfillment, and gratitude. I for me, gratitude really starts on the obvious fact of all that we have to be thankful for. Kevin, that you and I are able to just be free and to be in a place where we can sit and talk and just do podcasts together. And we obviously have all of our basic needs met. We're not hungry. We're not cold. We have, social connections and the ability to sit and write books and read books. So on that basic level, I just think it's almost easy to forget how much we have to be grateful for. And I think when we do have that habit of gratitude, that's when happiness comes in. And, as far as fulfillment, you mentioned while we were chatting earlier, you mentioned that good old barbecue and time with family. And I mentioned going to church. I feel like when people take care of their body, mind, and their spirit with gratitude, I think that fulfillment just happens naturally.
Absolutely. And I know that as a clinical psychologist, you work with a number of people to make sure that they fulfill their personal growth as business executives and other ordinary people as well. And I know that you've worked a lot about exploring the concept of nervous energy. And I'm curious to ask you how exactly you define nervous energy, whether it's a good or bad thing, and all about the book you wrote about it.
Well, thanks, Kevin. So I would just say that nervous energy is a good thing. So nervous energy is the way that I help people sometimes to reframe what they might be categorizing as a bad anxiety. I think, while a lot of people have, come to realize that they have anxiety or come to feel more comfortable talking about it, which is great. one of the things that I think has sometimes come with that is that people somehow also have the idea that anxiety is always a pathology, or that there's always something, wrong, like they want to get rid of their anxiety or manage it somehow. And what I want to reframe for people is that in many cases, anxiety is actually a gift from Mother Nature. As a clinical psychologist, I know that anxiety actually has a healthy function. The healthy function of anxiety is to stimulate preparation behaviors, and it can often signify that we're invested in something. So, part of what I just want people to know is that nervous energy can be a good thing. And just because we have a little case of the nerves going, that doesn't mean we want to get rid of it. Sometimes we can actually springboard on that energy to reach our goals or to find that fulfillment.
Yeah, doctor, if you're not nervous when you start something big, oftentimes it's not worth doing, right? So I get nervous every time I get ready to do a good thing, but it can also be a positive, right?
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
And I know that you have some tools. I think you have 9 tools that can help people manage their nervous energy. So I'm wondering if you could share those with me this morning.
Sure. So, there are 9 tools. So, probably it might be a little too much to go over all at once, but I will say people can go to nervousenergybook.com. At nervousenergybook.com, there's a little bit more information, about all of the tools. But I'll just pick one here to share with you, Kevin, just to keep it interesting. If you can tell me something in your life that's causing a little bit of nerves or a little bit of anxiety, or even just something about somebody else that you heard about that was causing some anxiety, then I could tell you which tool might be good for that situation.
Well, yeah, funny you should ask. I'm actually a finalist for a reporting job here in Windsor. So I have been checking my email, constantly waiting for a final decision. So maybe you can tell me how to manage my nervous energy when I'm waiting for a job decision.
Perfect. Thank you. That's a perfect one. And by the way, good luck with it. It sounds like getting a reporter job. I can see where that would be really exciting. So one of the things that I've found with people that have a very active, tenacious mind is that when you've been putting a lot of energy into reaching a goal, as you probably have, to like get that application together, maybe go through some interviews and stuff like that, the mind can develop what I call a cognitive habit of just always focusing on that one topic or that one goal. And up to a certain point, that can actually be useful, right? So, up until the moment when you submitted the application, constantly thinking about it might have been helpful because you could keep kind of Rubik's cubing it in your mind and thinking of better ways to improve it before you hit send. Or if it's like, well, you're preparing for an interview, so you can think about it a lot and, do mock interviews and just keep thinking and preparing for it. But after you reach the point, Kevin, where you are now, as you said, where there's nothing to do but wait, no productive activity to do but wait, then it's best to consciously redirect our mental energy onto something else. I know that's easier said than done. So, a technique from the book that can help is called the new mental shortlist. So, what we do is we give your brain a list of 5 good things that you will have written down that you can choose to think about instead of checking your email, to see if you've got any response yet. It's kind of like when we say don't think about pink elephants, it just makes you want to think about pink elephants. But it's easier to pivot if you give your brain 5 good topics to think about instead. And in that specific situation, Kevin, I might even suggest like one of the topics could be potentially to search for alternative opportunities, because that way, if you don't get the job, which I hope you do, it'll be their loss. I think you deserve it, but obviously it's not up to me. That way, if you don't get it, you've got a fallback. But then the other things on your mental short list, they can really be, they don't have to be even job related. They could be things like getting a jump on your birthday and holiday shopping. They could be things like inviting everybody and identifying a good date for the next barbecue that you mentioned. But the idea is that you want to have 5 things written down. So that way, when you're tempted to ruminate about the old topic, it's a lot easier when you have 5 good topics to think about instead.
It's easier to shift your focus, right? That's the whole idea, right?
Exactly. You control your focus, but you also use that energy, because it is true that when you feel nervous, on edge, on pins and needles about that, decision that you're waiting for, your body might be producing, giving you a little bit extra adrenaline, giving you that little bit extra, restless energy. And why not put that energy to good use by having, 5 other good things on your mental short list that you can burn out that energy on instead?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that transitions nicely into my next question. I wanted to ask you about the correlation between anxiety and stress and dealing with stress. I know that you work with business people to maximize their personal and their professional growth. So I'm wondering how you're helping people manage their stress, specifically because of the society or environment we're living in today.
Mm-hmm. Those are great questions, Kevin. I love all the preparation that you obviously put into this interview. Thank you. So I'll start with you had a few questions layered in there. So the first one is the connection between anxiety and stress, right? And so anxiety is our concern about our ability to meet or perform in the face of a future challenge, right? And stress is the experience of feeling like we're maybe a little bit at the outer edge of our capacity for what we can do. So those two things do kind of go hand in hand. So if I'm, trying to reach a new goal, say I'm trying to write another book, I could get a little stressed out if I'm reaching my capacity of what I'm able to handle. And then I could start to have anxiety about saying, gee, I'm obviously under stress here about my ability to do this thing. My anxiety is saying, will I ever be able to get it done? Okay, so that's like the relationship between anxiety and stress. And just like I normalized anxiety and talked about the healthy function of it to stimulate preparation behaviors, I also want to try to cast stress, believe it or not, in a somewhat positive light too. Because people who are goal oriented, who do like to always be growing and thinking about what's the next step for them, by definition, they're always going to be pushing themselves to that outer edge of what they can do. And then they want to grow and learn and climb and develop some more skills. So those people will often be experiencing some stress, but that's really not always a bad thing at all. Just like, for example, if you're at the gym and you're lifting weights, we all know that it's not till your muscles start really, really shaking, that's when your muscles are growing. So the experience of stress, whether it be on your muscles or on your mind, is definitely not always a bad thing. So anxiety and stress do go hand in hand, but they also can have a very healthy function for somebody that likes to grow. I hope that wasn't too much, Kevin, but you asked such a rich and multi-layered question. I wanted to try to dig into it.
Yeah, absolutely, Dr. Carmichael. As a journalist, you can never give me enough information, right?
Yeah, I hope. Thank you.
So, and Dr. Carmichael, I'm curious to ask you about one of my personal passions. Outside of doing this podcast, I work with individuals with disabilities in terms of trying to close the employment gap. So I'm interested to ask you, in your line of work, from a psychological perspective, the importance of infusing individuals with disabilities into the workplace. I'm wondering your thoughts on that subject.
Yeah, well, the topic of individuals with disabilities in the workplace is actually very, very, very near and dear to my heart. In my training, years, which I admit was a long time ago. But one of my most fulfilling training experiences was actually at the Federation of Employment and Guidance Services, also known as FEGS, in New York, the Federation of Employment and Guidance Services, which is a foundation that's exclusively for the purpose of helping individuals with disabilities. And in their case, it was mostly cognitive disabilities, helping those individuals to get into the workforce. And my particular role there as a trainee was actually to run a job searching club and to help them to stay motivated and to normalize the process even of rejection, because with or without any disability, any person who's going to be in the job market, myself included, we all have to get used to, rejection sometimes. So that was one of the things that was hard for them, but as for anybody. And so what I did is I created like some 4 stages of job searching for them, and the FEGs ended up retaining and using those materials in the future, which made me really happy. So I would just say, Kevin, I think whether somebody has a disability or not, if they want to be in the workforce, I think that's a great thing, right? Because to me, I love being in the workforce. I'm a mom and a wife. I could just, totally focus on that if I wanted, but I like to be out there in the workforce. It's just something I like doing. I have skills and perspectives, I believe, and I want to bring them out and share them with people. And I think anybody who feels that way should be able to do it. I know also many people are in the workforce, not so much because they want to share things with people, but maybe because they want to put bread on the table, right? So taking care of your family, right? Those are all very good reasons. And so anybody, whether they have a disability or not, who wants to be in the workforce, my hat is off to them and I'm right there with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that, Dr. Carmichael. And you had mentioned that you're a wife and a mother. So my next question has to do about living a balanced life in terms of uh, dealing with stress and anxiety, but also surrounding yourself with like-minded people to try and manage your stress and anxiety. So I'm wondering your thoughts on how we can all live a balanced life.
Yeah. So, Kevin, I think that, as you said, surrounding yourself with the right people is 100% essential to living a balanced life. And, I think you mean in terms of balanced life, like given that I'm passionate about my career and that I also want to be, a wife and a mother. But honestly, even if I didn't have a career, or even if I were not a wife and a mother, I would still feel that surrounding yourself with the right people is absolutely essential, to that balance, because we want to take care of other people. If you're somebody, whether it be in your job or in your personal life, that you're connected and you care about people and you want to help them and enrich their lives in some way, it's really important that that has to be a two-way street, right? So those of us with open hearts that, we're go-givers and we want to get out there and help people, the danger that we are in is burnout and resentment, because we are in the danger zone of accidentally surrounding ourselves with people that just want to take and receive the help and support that we have to give, but they're not necessarily going to be willing or able to be there and support us when we need it. So surrounding yourself with people that really are able to balance that out with you, I think is important. Also being willing to allow that to happen. I think some of us get out of balance in our lives because we're constantly giving and helping and supporting other people. And those people are willing and able to give back to us, but maybe we just have a hard time receiving support. So in my book, I talk a little bit about that as well, of making sure that you do feel comfortable giving and receiving support. Those are both really important parts of functioning.
Yeah, it's important to have a two-way street in life, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So, Dr. Carmichael, I'm curious to also ask you, what's the best aspect of your job? And for you, what's the best part about living life?
Oh boy, Kevin, that's a great question. So the best aspect of my job, I'm very thankful that my job is pretty multifaceted. So obviously I'm an author with Nervous Energy, Harness the Power of Your Anxiety, as well as my other book, Dr. Chloe's 10 Commandments of Dating. And then I'm also a clinician and a coach. I see clients individually, one-to-one, and I absolutely love that too. In fact, the stories and the material and the content in my books is informed by the individual work that I do. So I love both of those things. I also actually have some training programs and things for other therapists too. And I love being just with somebody like you. I love to be able to have these conversations. Let's have that conversation, right? As your show says, it gives me the opportunity to just meet and connect and, share with people in so many different ways. So it's hard to answer the question of what one part I like best, but I guess I would say the overall thing I like best is that for me, going to work means reflecting not only within myself, but out to other people, and then really being enriched by what the other people share back with me and getting to share it all back with them. So I guess to boil it all down to one thing, it's sharing. I think it's the opportunity to be constantly sharing and receiving with other people that I like best about my job. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer, but that was a very, very good question.
Well, I appreciate that. And my final question for you this morning, Dr. Carmichael, is I'm wondering if you've given any thought on how you want your personal or professional legacy to be defined.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you go deep, Kevin, which I love. Again, I really do. I really do. And I honestly don't, I'm glad you asked that, because I don't know if I really think about that enough in the day to day. My pastor at church actually said something similar recently. He said, try to start with the end in mind, like think about what you want the big picture to be at the end of the day, at the end of your life, and then try to live each day to get there so that we don't just get lost, in the day to day, so to speak. So I think that I would want my, legacy, as you said, personally and professionally. Those would be two obviously slightly different things. So on the personal level, I would want to be the best damn wife and mom that I can be, 100%. It's so important to me. And then in the professional side, I would love to be able to just connect with a large group of people and have let them know that their feelings and their anxiety and their energy is all okay, and that they absolutely can progress to the next step and meet their goals. If I could be somebody that helped provide them with some tools on their way to do it, that would be a great legacy for me to know.
Absolutely. That's something to aspire to. And Dr. Carmichael, if people want to get connected with you or get in touch with your book, what's the best way they can do that?
Sure. So if they want the Nervous Energy book, they can go to nervousenergybook.com. Also, of course, it's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all the other places. But if it's just easy to remember, they can go to nervousenergybook.com. And then, just while they're there on my website, they can also check out my other books, which is Dr. Chloe's 10 Commandments of Dating. I'm also all over social media. So if you like Twitter, if you like Instagram, if you like Pinterest, YouTube, I'm all over all of those places. So if you do go to my website, or if you just Google Dr. Chloe on whatever your favorite social media platform is, I'll pop right up. And I would just invite your listeners, Kevin, to, feel free to send me a DM and, let me know that you found me through Kevin's show, and I would have a special little gift I would send out to those people.
Fantastic. Well, Dr. Chloe, I took a lot of notes during this podcast, learned a lot during our conversation. So I want to sincerely thank you for your time, energy, and efforts on my behalf. It's most appreciated.
Thank you, Kevin. It was really a pleasure to connect with you, and I wish you all the best. Take care. And good luck with that journalist job. Let me know how it goes.
You'll be one of the first to know, I promise.
Sounds good. Take care. Bye-bye.